Week 9 TNF, Dolphins vs. Ravens. Start sit picks feet. Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, and Tua Tagovailoa. Thursday night football is here, and this one is a potential AFC playoff preview. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Miami Dolphins in a primetime clash packed with firepower, fantasy implications, and star-studded matchups. Lamar Jackson vs. Tua Tagovailoa, Zay Flowers vs. Tyreek Hill, and two high-powered offenses going head-to-head under the lights. It doesn't get much better than this. But the real question for fantasy managers this week: who should you start, and who should you sit in this heavyweight showdown? Let's break down every major player, analyze the matchups, and help you set your fantasy lineup for Week 9 TNF. Quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson vs. Tua Tagovailoa. We'll start under center, because both of these quarterbacks are elite fantasy options, but one may have the edge this week. Lamar Jackson has been on fire lately, leading Baltimore to one of the best records in the AFC. He's coming off another efficient performance, and what makes him special in fantasy is his dual threat ability. The Dolphins' defense, though explosive and fast, has shown vulnerability against mobile quarterbacks. With his rushing upside and control of the offense, Lamar is a must-start in every format. The Dolphins have been blitz-heavy under new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, and that could actually play into Lamar's hands. The more aggressive Miami gets, the more opportunities Lamar has to break, contain, and scramble for big chunk plays. Meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa remains one of the most efficient passers in football when protected, but this is where things get tricky. Baltimore's defense has been suffocating opposing quarterbacks all season, ranking near the top in sacks and pass defense efficiency. Tua thrives on rhythm and timing, but pressure disrupts that in a hurry. If your fantasy roster gives you the choice between Lamar and Tua, start Lamar this week. Tua is still a viable QB1 option in Superflex and deeper leagues, but temper expectations against this Ravens secondary. Verdict: white heavy checkmark start, Lamar Jackson. Warning sign #sit, or lower expectations Tua Tagovailoa. Running backs: Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane. Now let's talk backfields, because both of these teams can run the football. Gus Edwards exploded last week with a 3-touchdown performance, reminding everyone that is Baltimore's goal line hammer. But beware of chasing points. The Dolphins' run defense has been quietly solid, ranking top 10 in yards per carry allowed. That said, with Baltimore's offensive line dominating lately, Edwards remains a solid RB2 play. Expect around 60 to 70 yards and possible red zone opportunities. Justice Hill, on the other hand, has seen his touches dip. He's still involved on passing downs, but has become more of a desperation flex play in deeper leagues. On the Miami side, Raheem Mostert continues to be a fantasy star when healthy. Even though he's been banged up, his explosive speed and nose for the end zone make him hard to sit. The concern this week: the Ravens' front seven has been elite, allowing the second fewest rushing touchdowns in the league. If Devon Achane is still sidelined, Mostert remains a borderline RB1 thanks to volume and big play potential. If Achane returns, both could split touches, lowering each other's ceiling slightly but keeping both viable in fantasy lineups. Verdict: white heavy checkmark start, Gus Edwards, Raheem Mostert. Warning sign #sit, or flex only Justice Hill, Devon Achane, if limited. Wide receivers: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr. This is where Thursday night gets electric. Tyreek Hill continues to be a fantasy cheat code. Whether it's man coverage or zone, it doesn't matter, he finds ways to get open. Baltimore's secondary has been great, but no one can truly stop Tyreek. His matchup proof: you don't even think twice, you start him every week. Jalen Waddle has been a bit inconsistent this year due to injuries and target fluctuations, but his role as the secondary option against Baltimore could lead to sneaky production. The Ravens are likely to key on Tyreek, meaning Waddle could see softer coverage. He's a strong WR2 option for Week 9. On the Ravens side, rookie Zay Flowers continues to blossom, pun intended. He's been Lamar Jackson's most reliable target, leading the team in receptions and routes run. Flowers' speed and route running create separation quickly, and against Miami's aggressive secondary, he could thrive on short to intermediate routes. Durable and dependable, Flowers has become a weekly fantasy starter. If you've got him on your roster, lock him in as a WR2 with upside. As for Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr., both remain risky options. Neither has shown consistent volume, and their fantasy value depends heavily on touchdowns. Unless you're desperate, it's better to leave them on the bench. Verdict: white heavy checkmark start, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers. Warning sign #sit, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr. Tight ends, Mark Andrews vs. Durham Smythe. At tight end, it's another clear advantage for Baltimore. Mark Andrews continues to be an elite fantasy weapon. Even with Lamar spreading the ball around more this year, Andrews remains his go-to target in the red zone. The Dolphins have struggled to contain athletic tight ends, allowing multiple scores to the position this season. Andrews is a must-start T1 in all formats. On the other side, Durham Smythe is more of a role player. He's valuable to Miami's offense as a blocker but hasn't seen consistent target volume. Unless you're in a very deep league, Smythe isn't worth a start. Verdict. White heavy checkmark start, Mark Andrews. Warning sign #sit, Durham Smythe. Defense and special teams. This might be a high-scoring affair, but both defenses have fantasy appeal. The Ravens' defense has been dominant lately, forcing turnovers and sacking quarterbacks at a high rate. Even against a high-powered Miami offense, Baltimore's opportunistic nature makes them a decent play, especially in leagues that reward sacks and interceptions. The Dolphins' defense, while athletic, faces the tougher assignment this week, containing Lamar Jackson. Unless you're desperate, it's better to avoid starting them on Thursday night. Verdict. White heavy checkmark start, Ravens DST. Warning sign #sit, Dolphins DST. Bonus start sit calls. Start Jason Sanders, MIAK in what could be a back-and-forth game. Sanders might get plenty of field goal opportunities. Sit Justin Tucker, Balk. The Ravens might finish most of their drives with touchdowns rather than field goals this week. Final thoughts. Thursday night football in Week 9 gives us one of the most exciting matchups of the season. Two explosive offenses, two superstar quarterbacks, and huge fantasy implications. If you're setting your lineup, prioritize proven producers, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Zay Flowers. Avoid overthinking the flex spots, and don't chase touchdowns from inconsistent role players. This game has all the ingredients of a shootout, big plays, fantasy fireworks, and maybe even a few surprises. But one thing's certain, if you've got Lamar or Tyreek in your lineup, Thursday night could start your fantasy week with a bang.